Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Lewicki. Overnight into Wednesday, Israeli and U.S. forces launched another wave of strikes on Iran and Lebanon. In response, Tehran targeted several Gulf states, including the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. An Iranian drone attack sparked a fire on the grounds of the U.S. consulate in Dubai. According to the U.S. Central Command, around 50,000 troops are now assigned to the war in Iran. Israel ordered residents in dozens of villages and towns to evacuate in southern Lebanon, as it continues to target Hezbollah strongholds there. The IDF said it is working to intercept Iranian and Hezbollah missiles. In response to Iranian strikes, the U.S. has closed embassies in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and Lebanon, and ordered non-emergency personnel in several countries in the region to evacuate. A CIA station in Saudi Arabia and a U.S. military base in Qatar, the largest in the Middle East, were also hit. Later on Tuesday, reports have emerged of Qatar halting liquefied natural gas production as a result of Iranian strikes on its infrastructure, with Europe bracing for supply disruptions likely to follow. 4 days into Operation Epic Fury, U.S. Central Command Chief Admiral Brad Cooper outlined the goals of the operation, saying that U.S. Israeli attacks have severely degraded Iran's air defenses and reduced the Iranian Navy's presence in the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz to zero.
The first 24 hours of this operation were nearly double the scale, and we continue with 24/7 strikes into Iran from seabed to space and cyberspace. Now, we're less than 100 hours into this operation, and we've already struck nearly 2,000 targets with more than 2,000 munitions. We have severely degraded Iran's air defenses and destroyed hundreds of Iran's ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. We are also sinking the Iranian Navy, the entire Navy. Thus far, we've destroyed 17 Iranian ships, including the most operational Iranian submarine that now has a hole in its side. For decades, the Iranian regime has harassed international shipping. Today, there's not a single Iranian ship underway in the Arabian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, or Gulf of Oman, and we will not stop. We will continue to conduct dynamic targeting operations. We're hunting Iran's last remaining mobile ballistic missile launchers to eliminate what I would characterize as their lingering launch capability.
Reports that a new supreme leader has been appointed are now coming out of Iran. Mojtaba Khamenei, son of recently killed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is said to have taken over his father's role. The news was reported by Iran International and Iranian opposition media channels. However, Tehran has not confirmed or denied this new development yet. According to the recent reports, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps pushed for Khamenei's son to take over the position. As Iran, Israel and the U.S. continue exchanging fire, the vote for the new supreme leader was reportedly carried out remotely, since the building where they usually gather was destroyed in an airstrike. The assembly responsible for electing Iran's supreme leader consists of 88 clerics, who later oversee their leader's performance. During a press conference on Tuesday, U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters that he might have forced Israel's hand. He added that he was convinced Iran was going to attack first, despite the ongoing negotiations.
We were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. Based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. Our objectives are clear. First, we're destroying Iran's missile capabilities, and you see that happening on an hourly basis, and their capacity to produce brand new ones, and pretty good ones they make. Second, we're annihilating their Navy. We've knocked out already 10 ships. They're at the bottom of the sea. Third, we're ensuring that the world's #1 sponsor of terror can never obtain a nuclear weapon. And finally, we're ensuring that the Iranian regime cannot continue to arm, fund, and direct terrorist armies outside of their borders.
During a press conference following his meeting with Donald Trump in Washington on Tuesday, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz told reporters he was concerned that the plan for ending the conflict is not without risk. Merz said Germany agrees with the U.S. and Israeli stance that the regime must come to an end at some point, and stressed that Iran has been threatening peace in the region for decades.
We were in agreement in our assessment of the Mullah regime. It has been responsible for the brutal oppression of its population for decades. This regime has been responsible for threatening Israel's existence for decades. Iran's military, nuclear and missile programs have been threatening peace and security throughout the region, also for decades. Iran is spreading terror. This endangers our partners and all of us together. This terror is also expressed by the fact that Iran supports Russia in its war of aggression against Ukraine. We therefore share the interests of the United States and Israel that all this should come to an end at some point.
Tens of thousands of European citizens are trying to leave the Middle East amid the ongoing hostilities. On Tuesday, Poland's Deputy Foreign Minister said that preparations to evacuate those who need help the most are now underway, and flights from Oman should resume within the next 2 days. Around 200 evacuees arrived in Munich late on Tuesday on a special Emirates flight carrying German tourists from Dubai.
The relief is immense, and I think the full consequence of that will only become clear later.
You do wonder when you will be able to get home. It's more of a question of when you'll actually get home. But I felt safe.
Well, of course, the first few moments are always nerve-wracking. We had to wait another hour and a half before we finally took off. And naturally, all sorts of things were going through our heads, but in the end, everything went well. And of course, we were also monitoring the live radar to see where we were, whether we were still in dangerous airspace or not.
The United Kingdom is deploying a warship and helicopters to bolster its presence in Cyprus in the aftermath of a surprise Iranian drone attack on the Royal Air Force base in Akrotiri. France's nuclear power aircraft carrier has also been ordered to move to the Mediterranean Sea by President Emmanuel Macron. President Macron said that the aircraft carrier, the Charles de Gaulle, will be escorted by its air wing and frigates, adding that Rafale fighter jets, air defense systems and airborne radar platforms have all been deployed to the Middle East. London is sending the HMS Dragon destroyer to the eastern Mediterranean, along with 2 Wildcat helicopters. The British warship is fitted with a Sea Viper missile system, capable of launching 8 missiles in under 10 seconds and guiding up to 16 missiles simultaneously. In a statement posted on social media, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer stressed the UK's commitment to the security of Cyprus. Poland would consider offering some form of support to its allies in the Middle East, including the US, if requested, Polish Deputy Foreign Minister Władysław Teofil-Bartoszewski told TVP World. His remarks follow similar declarations from the UK, France and Germany.
We are not planning that at this moment. However, should the United States ask us for some form of support, we, of course, would look into that, because the United Kingdom refused the Americans to use the 2 aircraft bases to be used by American planes. And the result, Iran attacked a UK base in Cyprus with 2 ballistic missiles and 3 drones. So now the United Kingdom said, well, actually Americans can use our facilities because we are under attack. Of course, the E3 and everybody else will defend our interests in the region. We have military forces in the region. Should they come under attack, undoubtedly we will have to retaliate in some form or other.
And now it's time for the latest from Ukraine. 9 settlements along the southeastern part of the front line were liberated, according to Ukrainian military officials. Territorial gains are in part linked to the new restrictions that disabled unregistered Starlink terminals used by Russian forces, disrupting their battlefield coordination.
In places like this, sometimes only speed and drone detectors can save your life. For more than 2 months, a mandatory evacuations of families with children has been underway in Mykolaiivka, in Ukraine's Donetsk region. The evacuations from frontline towns are carried out by police officers, known as the White Angels. One of them says that if they spot a drone, everyone immediately gets out of the vehicle and looks up at the sky. Nearly 4,000 people remain in the town, including around 70 children.
It wasn't this scary before. A month ago, it wasn't like this yet. There weren't so many drones. They used to fire long-range missiles and all sorts of rockets, but this is completely different. This is really scary.
It remains unclear whether the intensification of Russian attacks on civilian targets is linked to developments on the battlefield. In the east, the situation is changing and not in Russia's favor. According to Ukraine's general staff, in the area where the Dnipropetrovsk, Donetsk and Zaporizhia regions meet, Ukrainian forces are conducting offensive operations. Over the past week, Ukrainian assault units have liberated 9 settlements near Oleksandrivka. It is not only paratroopers leading the push. Ukrainian drones and ground robots are also playing a key role.
Not long ago, we viewed robots as a form of additional support. Today, we clearly understand that this is not an add-on, but the foundation of our operations.
It is too early to speak of a decisive breakthrough on the front. However, Ukrainian commanders have little doubt that recent successes are linked to new restrictions on the use of Starlink terminals by Russian forces. Ukraine's defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, recently announced that all Starlink terminals used by Russian troops had been blocked, the result of cooperation between Kiev and SpaceX. And soldiers on the front line say they are already feeling the impact.
Right now, our ability to defend effectively depends on our ability to supply our positions. We can hold them as long as we have the means to defend them.
President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly said that Ukraine will not agree to territorial concessions, arguing that giving up land would not bring lasting peace. He continues to call on international partners to strengthen Ukraine's air defense.
The Ministry of Defense, the Commander-in-Chief and I are working on air defense. However, due to the challenges in the Middle East, there may be shortages of air defense systems.
Russia continues to level Ukrainian frontline towns and villages with missiles and drones, forcing residents to abandon their homes and flee. Piotr Kuchma, TVP World.
And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay with us here on TVP World.